we routinely work with organizations that have 3 to 7 to 9 different AIs they've bought and deployed air quotation, to the org. No one's using any of it.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
kind of the easiest thing to do, right? Which is just go buy some AI and turn it on, right?
Well, it feels like you can say you did something
Yeah, you did
if you
something, and
have if you have a receipt.
and you're spending money, exactly. Like, hey,
Right. You're
you're
investing
investing.
something. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to At Work with the Ready, a podcast about modernizing organizations as the future of work collides with the present. I'm Rodney Evans, and today we gave Sam a break, and I am joined instead by someone who I've been wanting to talk to for quite a while now, Greg Shove. Greg is a 7-time founder and CEO who is currently the CEO of Section, an AI workforce transformation company helping orgs to get real value from their AI investments. He's helped train thousands of leaders and knowledge workers on how to actually use AI in their work, and was very recently named one of Edelman's AI creators to know in 2025. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rodney. Great to be here.
Awesome. So I am thrilled about this conversation because Greg is really operating at the exact intersection that we are always talking about on this show. And that is what the work design is that is necessary to adopt AI and thrive in the intelligence age. So we're going to get into a conversation about what's getting in the way of that, what, Greg, you're seeing that you're really excited about. But first, we're going to do a check-in question because we always do. Greg, I'm going to put this to you first. My check-in question for today is, what's something happening in the AI hype cycle that drives you nuts right now?
The AI hype cycle. I mean, that's what drives me nuts. Listen, I get it. People need to raise money, and to raise money, you have to tell a story and about the future and how the future is going to be great. I just wish here's what I really wish, that AI CEOs from the major AI companies would stop saying it would be great or we should slow down and really contemplate the impacts of what we're doing, because they say it with such earnestness and they don't have any intention of slowing down. So
Yeah.
I wish they would just stop saying it. Don't be insincere and just admit and tell everyone what you're doing, which is you're moving at the fastest pace possible, regardless of the consequences, because you think it's a war and you want to win. So just be straight up with us. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great answer. My answer is somewhat related, which is so much of what I read and see, whether it's about agents or robots or workflows, is about all of the things that human beings aren't going to have to do anymore. We're not going to clean toilets, and we're not going to drive cars, and we're not going to write greeting cards, and we're not going to push code. And I rarely see anything about what we are going to do and what is going to be meaningful in this life as all of these pieces of our functionality are stripped away. And I don't know, I would find it inspiring and compelling to hear a little bit, just like 10% of like what that future might be.
Well, you don't like the version of that answer, which is we're all going to be poets and sitting on a beach and collecting our UBI check?
You know what? I don't buy it,
Yeah,
Greg.
no,
I don't
yeah,
I
no.
don't buy it.
Shocker. Yeah. Yeah, that's because
So
it's the answer is that no one knows. So they don't
no one
want,
knows.
there's nothing to talk about because no one actually has any idea what's going to happen, which
That's
is
fair.
probably the honest answer.
That's fair. So I want to get right into our conversation talking about enterprise AI. The listeners of this show know the statistics around how AI adoption is performing, and that the statistics are pretty grim. We see hovering around 10% of like ROI on use cases that's expected. Um, what do you think is going on? What's
Yeah,
going on? Why is it so shit?
sure. Well, a couple of things. First of all, consumers love AI. So let's be clear. When you talk about adoption, let's differentiate between consumer and corporate or enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Consumers love AI. This is a revolution that is just getting started in some ways and is gaining momentum, I'd say, on the consumer side. So we love AI, and of course, Silicon Valley is based on an addiction business model.
Mhm.
And so Silicon Valley is making AI very addictive. So consumers in addition to loving it, will likely become addicted to it.
Mhm.
And we can see that, right? When you get a
It's
when the
happening.
yeah, when AI comes back and says things like, "Do you want me to do that, or do you want me to make a PDF, or create a spreadsheet, or make the report?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, do that." Yeah, and then, "Do you want me to do
Right.
this?" "Yeah, do that." Right? Like,
Right.
just kind of pulling me into its little addictive claws, I guess. On the consumer side, on the enterprise side, it is shit. Adoption is not anywhere near what we thought it might be at this point. It seems to be around 10, 12, 13, 14%, depending on the organization. I don't think this is rocket science. I think it's simple. Uh, two parts to the answer. The first is employees are getting the gain and they're not sharing it with employers.
Mhm.
And so a lot of this data around there's no ROI, I think is bullshit. There's plenty of
Mm.
ROI. It's the early adopter employee that is getting that ROI because they're using AI in their work all the time, but they're not going to share that gain with their employer. And why should they? Because the second part of the answer is everyone else is worried about getting laid off.
Mhm.
And so, we have deployed this like it's software. And
Mhm.
how, what a mistake. This is not software. This is not ERP or CRM or marketing automation or what, this is not software. This is co-intelligence. It doesn't behave like software. It's unreliable.
Right.
It hallucinates, right? Makes mistakes. It can be incredibly productive and insightful. AI can be, and it can be really stupid, right? It's sort of a genius and a clown at the same time, but it doesn't behave like software because software really hasn't threatened, for most of us, hasn't threatened our employment, hasn't threatened our
Mhm.
livelihood, and this
Mhm.
this service, this intelligent service does. So most companies deploy it like software, and then they're like shocked that no one's using it because they haven't really answered the question which you started with, which is, what am I going to be doing after as an
Mhm.
employee? If I be a good corporate citizen and use AI every day and find a way to get 6, 8, 10 hours of time back, maybe more, like, what's going to happen to me? Will I go on to
Mhm.
more interesting work, or will I get laid off, or will my team shrink because now the team of 10, we don't need 10, we need 6.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is in a way not surprising, and we're going to have to bust through this anxiety and resistance if we're going to get adoption levels that are 60 to 70 to 80% in a typical large organization.
Yeah, I mean, the a lot of times in the work that we do, we mostly work with large companies, and a lot of times in the work that we do, one of the things that I say to C-suite executives is when they're telling me about a frustration or a tension that they're feeling in their organization, I usually remind them that the talent force is probably operating rationally based on the environment that they're in.
Mhm.
And what you just described is very rational behavior.
Mhm.
Okay, so I've
Absolutely.
got 10 pocket hours. Where is the incentive to give them back? Like what why should I A and B, a lot of top performers, as you and I both know, are punished for their competence. So they have more workload, more roles, less balance than the slackers do. So I am imagining somewhere in that population, those people are going like, I'm going to take those hours and like get a tiny slice of my life back,
Yeah, totally.
not immediately
Yeah,
fill it.
right. Walk the dog, take a yoga class. I mean, listen, remote work gave us Friday afternoons back. Bottom
Right.
line, AI is giving us Friday mornings back. If you're
Right.
one of those early adopters and you figure this out, how to use GPT at work, whether it's sanctioned or not. Meaning, if it's not sanctioned, again, those early adopters are using it anyway, and getting
Yeah.
those hours back. And to your point, what's the incentive to sort of share that with my employer? Plus, it just takes time. Even if the employee was willing to share that time, if you will, back with the employer, it takes time to redesign workflows, redesign teams, as change the composition of the organization. That doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take years for those changes to happen, and then therefore really see the impact of AI in the organization, in terms of making it more productive, if in fact that happens. So most of these AI layoffs that we hear about or read about, they're bullshit. There's no way in those organizations AI is that well integrated and changing the nature of work and the nature of teams such that they need to make those layoffs. That's not happening. That's just cover for CEOs that want to do something that's rational as well. Well,
Mhm.
every CEO I talk to wants to grow their business at 25 to 30% of the year for the next 5 years and
Yep.
hold headcount flat.
Yep.
and they brag about it. They brag about it, in board meetings, on the golf course. They brag about it in public. You see these CEOs doing this in terms of their earnings calls and their all hands meetings. And I get it. That's rational. It drives your stock price up,
Sure.
right? And that's where 90% of your compensation is if you're an executive. Maybe 95,
Absolutely.
So yeah, listen, CEOs are acting rationally. Employees are. We're going to have to find a way to get through this,
Yeah.
in the next 10 years.
The other thing that the sort of behavioral pattern brings up for me, I'm curious your take on this. In a lot of very large organizations, there is a level of institutionalized idiocy. Like we are running, industrial and information age playbooks. We're saddled with organizational debt. We're all just walking through sludge all day because the bureaucracy is crippling, blah, blah, blah. You get it. And as a result of that, I have a fair number of interactions with people who are sort of at the middle to upper strata of organizations who have let their muscles for strategic activities atrophy over the last 10 to 20 years. And as AI takes the more rote, easier, dopamine producing layer of work, those people don't know what the fuck to do.
Hmm.
And so I feel like part of the resistance is like, do we all actually want that space opened up? Because there are people who I think are loath to admit that they don't know what to do with it.
No, absolutely. No, we have a lot of people in the knowledge economy that make a good living, passing information from one
Yes.
silo to the next, right? Or I call these
Yeah.
the cut and paste jobs and the lookup jobs and the synthesizing jobs and the reporting up jobs. There's a lot. I think this is what AI is kind of revealing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
knowledge work that is repetitive, kind of mind-numbingly boring, but quite lucrative if you can get the job, especially in a big tech company or just a big company in general, where you get decent health benefits and other, kind of other perks. So yeah, why not stay in that job for as long as you can? And what would I do with that extra time? I think that's right. Listen, AI is truth serum for
Yeah.
organizations. And AI reveals a lot when you come to apply AI to an organization. I think it's true serum. You'll see the lack of growth mindset. You'll see the lack of organizational coherence. You'll see a lot of busy work. You'll see the
Mhm.
undocumented workflows. You'll see a lot of people working, but not in any synchronized way. So we need to go and try to automate that with AI. It doesn't work because you're kind of slapping AI on already a broken workflow that has too many people who are unclear exactly what they're doing. Like, I mean, this is why the worst run organizations will just be worse with AI. It's not going to help them. And the best
They'll
run,
just be bad but faster.
yeah, they'll be exactly. They'll just be bad and wasting more money now on the AI as well, right? And the best run companies, I think, get this strategic advantage if they can figure it out and deploy it successfully. So, my model is going to be, as an investor, invest in the best companies in the category. If you think they're committed to transforming to become an AI first or AI enabled organization, they're going to create more distance, from their competitors because they're already well run, and they'll have a much easier job of applying the AI kind of into their product services and into their internal organizations. And for the rest
Mhm.
of them, they're going to fumble around just more,
Yeah, absolutely. I am curious. You talked a little bit about the consumer love and just in a lot of companies, I do see individual zealots who are doing a lot of their own experimentation and learning at a rapid pace and are very exciting. Um, what do you think actually moves an organization from those disconnected efforts to something that looks like large scale transformation? Like, what are the non negotiable ingredients for enterprises to shift?
It's a long list, so let's try to make a short list.
Cool.
The first is the why of AI and AI manifesto. Like,
Uh-huh.
why are we doing this, and how will we do it? And I don't mean a governance policy. I mean, all governance does, or sort of AI policies do, is actually suppress usage. So you actually want adoption and usage. So you want sort of the purpose. Why are we doing this? And in what way will we do it? What's sort of the culture around our AI? Are we going to celebrate it? Are we going to share our wins and losses? Are we going to consider it not cheating, but actually working smart to be using AI? So I think one non negotiable is you need a why of AI with an AI manifesto. You need to be public about it. and sort
Mm.
of publish it to customers, to investors, and obviously to employees first. And that'll be sort of the operating manual, if you will, for AI. The next thing you need
Mhm.
is give your employees good AI and pay for it, and give it to everyone. I'm blown away by AI leaders who want
Yes.
to give AI only to some part of the organization. Like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, like, this is just so stupid. Like, if you, as a parent, would you give one kid AI and one kid not, and say, "Hey, go both excel at school, but you kid, you get the AI, and this other kid, you don't get the." As a parent, would you? Now, maybe as a parent, you wouldn't give either kid AI because if you're afraid about the fact they won't learn with AI, we can talk about that later. But the reality is, you're going to give both kids AI, and they're
Sure.
going to hopefully use AI the right way, to become more employable in the future. But organizations are still deploying some AI, like the best AI, to some people and not to others. It makes no sense. Everybody needs to get a great AI. A great AI means the latest version of whatever enterprise AI that you want to buy for your sort of product your internal ecosystem. That might be Google if you're a Google Shop, or Microsoft Copilot, obviously, or
Mhm.
ChatGPT Enterprise. Give everyone a great AI. Third is constant coaching or training. This idea that you're going to sort of do an AI a week, or a lunch and learn, or like a bunch of workshops and be done, and employees will figure out how to use these tools. Again, very naive. It feels like that's what you would have done 10 years ago when you deployed your new ERP. This is
Sure.
this is not software. These technologies are really exciting and terrifying at the same time, and the capabilities are changing all the time. So you are going to have to kind of constantly coach and help people figure out how to use these tools. Finally, you have to help them find their use cases. It's not
Yes.
enough to learn how to prompt. You need to
Right.
get people faster to value, and that means in your specific job, in your specific division and role and country, what are the use cases that are going to give you some value as an individual employee, and get to that knowledge and that applicability much faster. It's taking way too long. Even after you've trained employees like how to prompt, you've got to get them faster to their use case. Finally, it's what you said again at the top of the podcast. What's going to have to come next after that is help them. And by the way, AI can help us do this. What will
Mm.
employees do with this new time?
Yeah.
It's one thing to save them a bunch of time, that's great, but as a manager, as a leader in particular, your job, and I see very few leaders doing this and managers doing this, is your job is to come up with the next sort of set of work, projects, and tasks that are interesting and valuable, to basically get your team engaged in that work. Like, what's going to come next is there's got to be new work that is
Mhm.
interesting and higher value, and the manager has to come up with that. AI can help because you can brainstorm with AI, like, what should I do now with my time?
Sure.
I'm a content marketer, I'm a salesperson, I'm a engineer, whatever it might be. But I think that we've got to also fill in these gaps a year from now, which is, okay, we got 10 hours a week back. What
Right.
is more interesting and strategically valuable work you can do for the organization and for yourself, right? So those to me are some
Yeah.
of the non-negotiables.
Well, and your last point to me is such an interesting one because one of the no one of the top 3 presenting problems that leadership teams come to us with is an inability to prioritize. They're just like, "Too many things, shiny object syndrome, all the things you know." And to me, the last point that you made feeds so well into the prioritization conversation because they can't actually get after more strategic initiatives with the current resources that they have for the most part. And this theoretically is a way to create enough slack to get after the
Hmm.
things in the maybe someday column.
Hmm.
And yet, to your point, I don't hear that narrative very much, which is like, this is what 2026 looks like. And if we can find 15% of Slack, here's what sort of like the dual transformation play is that we would love to be able to get after. Let's start dreaming about that now because almost certainly we'll have capacity to do it later. Like, I just don't sort of hear that logic
Yeah, and is it? But
much.
isn't that because of what you just said earlier around, like, there's been that atrophying of those strategic sort of skills and analysis? Because that to me sounds like strategy, right? And
For sure.
I think most of us have our heads down executing what's in front of us.
Yeah.
And we like the reliability of that. We like the predictability of that. We like, we can manage our time because we know what that kind of work is versus this
Right.
strategic work. It's tougher, that kind of work. It's more uncertain. It asks more questions than it answers. Most people want answers, not questions. So yeah, I
Yes.
think I think that's right. I think that this is why startups can apply these kinds of technologies so much easier and so much faster. One of them is they're just small companies, they're small organizations, so the change management challenge is not as great as obviously in a larger organization. And I think the second is every day is a strategic challenge in a startup.
Right.
And so you're always asking these kinds of questions, and you're always saying, well, if I had an extra hour, I'd probably do that because I've got this kind of list of burning to do things because I'm a startup kind of fighting for relevance and survival. So
Mhm.
I'm not usually short of important shit to do. And if I free up time, I can go to that list and get on with it, right? Whereas in
Yeah.
big companies, that sort of imperative or that level of intensity has just been dissipated over the years and over the size of the organization and over the kind of the amount of resources the organization has. And they lack that edge, that sharpness around how would we use our time
Right.
if we got some of it back. How would we expand margins? I think we all should walk around with like 5 questions, and just all of us keep those questions top of mind when we work. Growth, margin, uh, kind of organizational health, whatever is relevant to you. It may not be 5, it might be only 2 or 3, but I think those are the questions we always should be asking ourselves at any moment, and they're more strategic questions, right? They're about value creation.
Yeah. It's interesting, uh, to your point about startups also because in that space, when teams are still looking for PMF and they're still really resource constrained, there's also just like not the same preciousness about, oh, is this
Right.
technology gonna, fill in this form for me?
Mhm.
Then what am I gonna do on Tuesday morning, which is form filling time?
Right.
Whereas I
Right.
think in a lot of large organizations, one of the things, and this relates to your point about the questions to ask, but one of the things that I find really challenging is in very large organizations, you have a lot of people that are insulated from the market and the customer, and frankly, the financials by hierarchy.
Mhm.
And they're just like, I don't really know how the money goes here.
Yep.
Like, I don't
Yep.
really know how it goes from the street through the org chart into my bank account. And frankly, I don't really care.
Right.
And in a startup, like, you just don't have that luxury.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
Everybody
that's
sort
right.
of has
Yeah.
to be paying pretty close attention to
Yeah.
the value
Every
creation
start That's
engine.
right. Everybody in a startup knows the levers of the business.
Right.
You're right. And in large companies, most people can explain those levers,
Yeah.
but financial or operational, they don't see that big enough picture, and or they don't care to. And
Yeah.
again, they sort of want to get their job done. Also, startups don't care about the risks with AI. There's all kinds of risks with AI,
Mm,
including just tactical risks like hallucinations, getting a wrong answer. The reality is the gain outweighs the risk. And if you're in a large organization, everything's about risk management.
mhm.
We want to manage away risk so that we're not at personal risk in terms of our employment, and of course, we don't want to put the organization at risk. That's why Google didn't launch Gemini, or didn't basically launch an LLM. They sat on it because of the risk. They sat on the technology which they developed, the technologies for LLMs, because all they could see was risk. They couldn't see any upside. And
That's so interesting.
it took OpenAI and ChatGPT and a billion users to really awaken them from their slumber. And it seems like they've responded, right? Gemini 3.0
Sure.
looks legit, and the numbers in terms of user numbers are starting to be impressive. I think next year, this is Google's year next year. I think Sundar looks like a genius by the end of next year, and they'll have a billion active AI users. And they were asleep at the wheel, and now they've woken up.
What makes you say that? That's interesting.
A good product, Gemini 3.0, and they've got distribution. They've got significant points of integration of their AI into the flow of work and into consumers' lives. So,
Mhm.
companies that are Google Shops, Google Workspace accounts, and of course, tons of consumer points of integration. And they've got natural structural cost advantages. They run the most compute,
Mhm.
I think, probably in the world.
Mhm.
They serve the most sort of cloud queries, if you will. Like, they know how to do that. really well and cost effectively.
Mhm.
OpenAI is having to learn all that in terms of how to serve answers at scale. Google knows how to do it. So yeah, I just and of course they have tons of cash. So
Sure.
I think next year is the year we realize that Apple is even more lost and pathetic
Mhm.
in the age of AI, and that's the year we learn that Google will be in the likely the winner, if not in the top two.
Interesting. Interesting. I want to go back to what you said about risk and sort of large companies being focused on risk mitigation or risk elimination because I see the way in which large companies value a lot of things that AI doesn't give a shit about. And one of those things is it's not actually risk mitigation, it's the performance of risk mitigation. It's the overwrought compliance.
Hmm.
It's the 10-ton governance model that doesn't make any fucking sense to get anything done. But it's all of the rules-based culture. And our business for the last 10 years has been really trying to get at ways of working, but we've always coached orgs to do that through the lens of experimentation.
Hmm.
And large organizations do not like experimentation. They don't like that word. They think it means chaos. They feel like it means mess and vulnerability and looking bad and blah blah blah. And and I keep just like, when I think about the risk thing, when I think about the experimentation thing, when I think about silos, I'm just like, these are things that AI is not going to honor. It is not going
Hmm.
to honor your
Right.
stupid org chart that nobody looks at or the 82 approval chain process that makes no sense for shipping an update to your customer. And so I'm just curious, like, when obviously you're talking to a lot of leaders specifically about their vision for AI, how are they talking about how they're going to change their companies? Because this stuff is like in the DNA of these organizations.
Yeah, I don't think most of them have any clue about what's about to happen,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think they think yet about it as changing the organization, or I think they think about this as a productivity software, and therefore they really think about this as a path to hold headcount flat or reduce headcount in order
Uh-huh.
to grow and therefore and grow earnings at the same time. I think only a few are really contemplating the amount of change that might need to happen for the organization to leverage these technologies. They don't really understand the technologies in terms of how
Yeah.
powerful they are. How, to your point, like AI has no boundaries,
Right.
none. Right, crosses everything, crosses countries, crosses language, crosses time.
Yep.
Just crosses function and capabilities and so on. I don't think most executives realize this really and what it really means for their organization. I think we're just getting started here, and I think what will have to happen is more bankruptcies
Mm.
and or sort of companies that are really impaired with because they did not respond or sort of mitigate the risk from AI. We've seen a few. Everyone talks about Chegg,
Mhm.
but we need to see, frankly, more of them, and to kind of wake up management teams and make them realize that there's going to be real risk here unless you really appreciate these capabilities and integrate them into your products and services and into kind of the way you work. But at the end of the day, we're motivated by compensation a lot of the time,
Yep.
and
Yep.
startups see gain, and as yet, incumbents aren't seeing much downside, not
Mhm.
yet. Incumbents, existing firms, legacy firms, will see less of the gain, likely because they can't move to that gain that quickly. They're going to have to
Mhm.
see more risk. What woke up Google? What woke up Google was risk from OpenAI and ChatGPT to their monopoly on search. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, everything got to be mobilized, and Google started to make progress with Gemini. That has to happen in other industries, and I think management teams need a wake up call. And it's going to be a competitor going bankrupt or a competitor reporting 2, 3, 4, 5 quarters of trending down revenue. If you're in the media
Mhm.
business, if you're in the agency and creative services business, if you're in the entertainment business, we're going to start to see some of these impacts on these businesses, real impacts on their kind of revenue and bottom line. When that happens, I think management teams start to take things a little more seriously. Until then,
Mm.
I don't know. I'm not so confident.
Mhm. Yeah,
Which
that
makes it hard,
tracks.
by the way, as you know. I'm sure these are some of your clients. Makes it hard to be the AI sort of evangelist inside a large organization, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're not getting the resources, if you're not getting the traction with the management team, if you're getting lip service, you might have actually the most buy-in from the CEO,
Mhm.
who's like, "Hey, let's do this," and everybody else is like, "I don't know," right? Yeah, I have a lot of empathy right now for heads of AI, whether it's actually their job title or they're the ones that sort of volunteered to do it as a side hustle, even inside the organization, because they're probably not getting a lot of love, and it's hard work. It's a real slog.
Yeah. 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 I mean, a lot of the behavior I observe, it is often the CEO who's sending the articles,
Yep.
bringing AI up in meetings, posing provocative questions,
Mhm.
and then it's kind of like, anyway, back to business. It's like
Sure. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not the work to be done, which is significant design work, and also education, and also
Mhm.
experimentation. It
Mhm.
like it doesn't live in the strategy, and it doesn't live in the road, and it doesn't live in the operating rhythm, and it does live in anybody's role except for the poor head of AI transformation who's basically screwed. And like it's just not sort of in the fabric of companies yet.
No, and I think that it won't be for a while. And again, there needs to be some really significant motivation or catalyzing moment where the organization has to agree to start to do this kind of work. And I think that usually comes from economic risk.
Yeah.
Outside, right? Meaning a competitor or a customer says, no, we're no longer going to be a customer because we can do this without you and we can do it with AI. I call this jumping capability boundaries. What I love about
Mm.
AI for individuals is it makes individuals sort of more enabled to jump those capability boundaries, right? If you're not a financial analyst, you can kind of be a decent financial analyst with AI,
Mhm.
or you can do a little bit of your own coding now and so on, right? So I think this idea of jumping capability boundaries is good for people. It's going to be tough for organizations because customers and suppliers will begin to jump those capability boundaries with AI and potentially become your competitors or just stop being customers. So again, I think we're going to need to see more of that, or organizations are going to need to see more of that to get them the kind of motivation they need to do this work, because it is hard work, and it
Yeah.
won't be accomplished by buying more AI. The thing that we see, because it's the easiest thing to do, if,
Mm.
if you're a CEO and says, I want to be all in on AI, what's the first thing you do? You just go buy a bunch of AI, and that's easy because there's
Yeah.
a ton of great AI out there, a lot of great applications and all kinds of startups and vendors. And for your CTO or whoever's buying the software, it's easy. Cancel some old SaaS contracts because no
Yep.
one's no one's using them anyway, right? We're overpaying for all this software, so cancel a few SaaS contracts and then go buy some AI. So we routinely work with organizations that have 3 to 7 to 9 different AIs they've bought and deployed air
Wow.
quotation, to the org. No one's using any of it.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
kind of the easiest thing to do, right? Which is just go buy some AI and turn it on, right?
Well, it feels like you can say you did something
Yeah, you did
if you
something, and
have if you have
yeah,
a receipt.
and you're spending money, exactly. Like, hey,
Right, you're
you're
investing
investing,
something.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and you do a couple trainings, and you do like an AI week or whatever, or lunch and learn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, obviously, and that's why
No.
we're flatlining at 10% adoption inside of most organizations. No, listen, a
Yeah.
few. The good news is there are some companies that are getting way past that, and they're getting into the 60, 70, 80% sort of adoption, weekly active usage. Companies like Moderna or
Mhm.
Zapier or Box, but it takes that level of commitment and investment that we're talking about, I think, to make that happen.
Yeah. One of the things that you said before, which I hear a lot, is that the the milestone, or the point that a lot of executives are steering toward has something to do with productivity, and that is sort of like the first principle behind the AI transformation work is increase in productivity. I think that's not a good first principle, and I'm curious what your take is on that, and what you like, if you're design if you're king of whatever large organization, and you're like, "Hey, my first principle around becoming an AI led organization is X." What is it?
It's cut and create. That's what I would do. So
Cut and create.
yeah, I share somewhat your point of view, I think, which is I think this is an efficiency and a growth play
Mhm,
or strategy. So McKinsey would charge you $1 million and they call it efficiency and growth. I like to call it cut and create. You will cut stuff.
mhm.
Use AI to cut unnecessary workflows, unnecessary tasks, unnecessary vendors, like use AI to cut what you don't need. That will, for some organizations, mean cutting people. I mean, that's
Yep,
we know that certainly in
100%.
customer service, and there's some obvious areas where that's already happening. But I think we should think about is cut what you don't need to do anymore in order to free up the bandwidth that we talked about and the resources and the capital in order to create. And with
Mhm,
create, I mean, that's the fun part, right? Let's create new products and services. Let's create new business models,
mhm,
and then eventually, hopefully, we'll be creating new jobs, right? And new revenue for the organization. So I think you can do. I think you should do both. You can do them in parallel or in a serial way. I think if you're going to start with cut, do it fast. All the
mm,
anxiety in AI is in that first phase, the cut phase. That's
mm,
what we just talked about. That's where
mhm,
employees are not sure. That's understandably right. So I think we got to get through that cut phase as fast as you can and get to the
mhm,
fun part. And the fun part's great, which is how do you reinvent your products and services and your business model? And the business model part's really important. I think a lot of incumbents think about making new or improving their products and services with AI. They absolutely
mhm,
should be doing that. They can create new products and services, but be careful if you don't also focus on your business model, because I think
mhm,
the AI native startups, they will do both. They'll make a better
mhm.
product and service. They might make a better business model, and once the customer sees a better business model, they love it. They're not going to go back. And so I do
Mhm.
think a lot of disruption is not necessarily because of product disruption in terms of someone having a better mousetrap. It's the
Yep.
better mousetrap combined with a better business model for the customer.
Have you seen an example of that that you would hold up?
Yeah, sure. I think the one that everybody's talking about just in the last couple of weeks is Sierra.ai. That's Brett Taylor's customer service AI chatbot company, and
Mhm,
they charge per successful completed customer call handled by the AI. It's just a way better business model for the customer, right? Meaning
yeah.
the enterprise pay for success at the transactional or unit level. It's much better than a seat based model if when you think about the enterprise buyer. So that's one example. There are a bunch. And listen, I think we'll see a lot of knowledge work get carved up and charged for in different ways, and that's the risk if you're a law firm or a management consultant. Obviously, is that
Sure.
pricing becomes more outcome or output based as opposed to hourly. And I don't think it's going to be one or the other. I think these models will blend together. But I think if you're an AI leader right now or an executive, not just the AI executive, you should be thinking about not just sort of AI to make my product or service better, but how does AI potentially change the way customers will want to buy this and how they'll want to pay for it.
Mhm. That's cool. It brings up something else that I wanted to ask you about. I'm a big fan of this book that's old, and I still refer to a lot, that's called Dual Transformation. Do you know this book?
I don't know it, so yeah, say more.
Okay, it's good. And here's the crux of it, which you can like watch a 2-minute video and get to the crux, like many business books. Is this essentially? It is that in order to do real transformation effectively, one has to do the transformation in their core business at the same time as they build the new business
Mhm,
alongside, even understanding that the new business may ultimately cannibalize the core business.
mhm,
And my sense is that's going to happen a lot with AI.
mhm,
Like, even as we automate and find efficiency and do things better and reduce headcount and provide about a more seamless customer experience in our core business, as we build alongside, um, we are going to lose some of that core business. And the
yeah,
point of dual transformation is plan for that
mhm,
and move into the new house over here when the paint's
mhm,
dry,
mhm.
rather than trying to keep this thing working. First of all, I'm curious, like, just your take on that. And second of all, I have in my show notes from Jack that you guys have done this at Section.
We have, yes. First, first of all, first of all, dual transformation sounds absolutely right. That is the strategy, I think, to survive and or thrive in these moments, which is, yeah, you need the core business I mean, that's providing the cash and the
Yeah.
revenue and all the people, right? So you need that, and you want to make it more efficient and optimize it, as you said. And at the same time, can you do the skunk works or is it can you start the startup inside the big company to get ready to disrupt yourself? Most people don't want to do that though. Like Rodney, I mean, it's the right strategy. I just don't see it happen very often, very effectively. I'm not sure why. My guess is it's a combination of factors, including you're not that serious about the startup within the big company. You are for the first year or two, but probably not in terms of the long term. You may not really give it all that it needs. You may not be able to get the people. I think so much of creating a startup is about that founding team and that and getting the right people to build whatever it is you want to build that's going to disrupt what you already have. I think it's hard to get those people unless it's a real startup
Mm,
with real economic upside, like the crazy people that want to do that kind of disruption and that kind of that work, that amount of effort over typically 3 to 7 years at least,
mhm.
to build something that's going to be truly disruptive to others. They need to see significant economic upside, and the corporate parent doesn't want to provide that much upside.
No,
And I think,
it's
quite
way out
frankly,
of whack with the rest of their
it's way out
incentives.
of
They're like, "No,
whack with
thank you."
incentives
Yeah,
and their risk, and you got to tell
yeah.
Wall Street about it. And this is Mary Barr at General Motors. You got to give her credit,
Mhm,
right? She
mhm.
bought Cruise and then
Yep.
funded it, just and then realized it was just dog shit. It didn't
Mhm.
work. And the good news is she's kept her job. Some boards probably would have fired her by now, but she's a really effective CEO, and she's been able to kind of withstand that failure. But that's a good example. I mean, that's not for the faint of heart.
Mhm.
Most of my friends, if they're my age, or the friends of mine that are my age, because I'm old, are like, I don't want to deal with this shit. I'm gonna head to the golf. This AI stuff, this like
Yeah.
dual transformation. It's like fuck that. I'm just gonna go golf.
I'm on the back
So
9. I'm not
yeah, I'm on the
doing it.
back nine. I'm not doing it. I'll let the Gen Z figure this out, or whoever the hell it is, whatever that generation is. So yeah, listen, I think that sounds like the right strategy. It's really hard to do. I think what usually happens is they buy.
Mhm.
They don't really self-disrupt. They wait till it's too late and overpay and buy it and try to bring it in. I don't think the track record for that's very good
No,
either.
and then they ruin the companies they buy.
Yeah, totally, right? And they
Yeah.
don't really turn the corner or sort of make the transformation happen. And listen, and we'll see this when the bubble bursts. When the AI bubble bursts, this is going to be air cover for a lot of executives, CEOs, and so on to say, "Well, I told you so." It's not that this AI thing's,
Mm.
it was all hyped up, and we don't need to focus on it as much. We don't need to invest as much. We can just kind of put that stuff a little bit back on the back burner now because the bubbles burst. We're absolutely going to see that next year. And the
Mhm.
reality is, it's going to burst for investors, but the AI's bubble is not bursting in terms of these capabilities. And the people who are serious about it will just double down. When the bubble bursts, all the bozos will get cleared out. All those AI influencers are in my LinkedIn feed every day. They're going to be gone. That'd be good for my LinkedIn feed at least. And like the people who really give a shit about this and want to work at it, they're going to keep their heads down and just kind of plug away and
Mhm.
and emerge with a great startup, or maybe transform their own organization. That's what Jeff Bezos did when the dot-com e-commerce bubble burst, right? I mean,
Mhm.
people don't remember his stock dropped 95%.
Right.
Wall Street Journal called him, Amazon dot bomb. Like he was
Mhm.
ridiculed. And they had to lay off people and cut costs and kind of hunker down, and then they just kept investing. And
Mhm.
Nordstrom.com and Walmart.com, all those guys use as an excuse to basically deprioritize online shopping and e-commerce. And Amazon use it really as a way to build market share for 10 years. And so the same thing's going to happen here when this AI bubble bursts, which it surely will in the next year or 18 months.
Cool. So tell me about Section disrupting itself.
Well, Two parts of the story. We had to pivot first and then disrupt ourselves
Okay, I
second.
don't
So
know
we
the pivot part, I don't
Well,
think. I
yeah,
think I only know
we
the
were
disruption part.
yeah, we were an online business school, so we basically taught strategy to executives online,
Mm,
and that was a good business. And then it was only an okay business, and then I played with ChatGPT Plus on February 2023, and I realized, well, this was the new accelerant, both for people and for companies. It would be AI, not better strategy. I mean, clearly
mhm.
it's both, but AI just struck me as a better bet. So I kind of pivoted the whole business that day, and like any
Dang.
other yeah, like any other leader, it's hard to do a pivot because everybody was like, "What?" And I got a day job, I'm busy, and how's this going to impact? And will you lay me off? Like it took a year to get, and we were a very small organization, under 30 employees. So that
Mhm.
was the pivot. This sort of self disruption is we've built an AI coach. So the business has been to use workshops, both online and in person, strategy sessions, hackathons, all those kind of manual, effective but manual techniques to kind of make the change happen for our clients, for our enterprise clients. Now we're doing all of that inside of intelligence software. It's called Prof AI, and it's software. It's AI software. It's an application, and this is going to be the way we get our organizations trained, constantly trained and retrained, help them find their use cases, help them find what to do with their time, their new
Mhm.
time. Do they have what's the more strategic work they can do? All that's going to be coached through an AI assistant called Prof AI. So it's basically a software platform, and its cost per employee is a lot less than what our previous cost per employee was in terms of our initial product, which was workshops and online training. So it was scary, and we just launched it in April. We have 100 and maybe 125 enterprise customers now. It's growing like crazy. It was the right move, but we were giving up good high margin revenue and
Yeah,
replacing it with less, also high margin, but less revenue per seat or per employee in terms of the AI application, Prof AI. So yeah, scary moment, uh, but fun,
but
and
fun.
yeah, and if I don't disrupt ourselves, then someone else will, and then we'll be dead, and that's worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet, as you know, that's not a stance that especially executives of publicly traded companies often
Yeah,
take.
because they're stewards of much bigger assets, and they are paid to manage, if it's publicly traded, manage the stock price.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. You used a word that we use a lot here. So, we talk a lot about, um, the industrial age and the assembly line sort of forging the role of manager for the first time in the discipline of management science, and then the information age and like the sort of the GE paradigm forging the role of leader and like rock
Mhm.
star executive leadership status being the new hotness of the 80s and early 90s. And we talk about this age, the intelligence age, as requiring a shift from leadership to stewardship. And the way that we conceive of stewardship is actually thinking of an organization as a living complex system, and one's role in it being to steward its survival, steward its adaptation, no different than stewarding a family trust or a land conservancy. It's not about owning it and trying to control it. It's about shaping it and trying to keep it alive, essentially. And I've heard you say the steward word a couple of times too. I'm curious, like, first of all, I'm curious just if that lands with you or if you think I'm full of shit. And second of all, I'm curious, like, what posture you'd like to see leaders taking now.
So I don't think you're full of shit, or only partially. No, so I think it's
Great.
like I think it's both, Rodney. I think we want to steward, and there'll be moments of leadership required, with deep conviction.
Yeah.
Maybe there's no data, so a lot of intuition, a lot of or judgment. Yeah, so the stewardship doesn't 100% land with me. It
Mhm.
lands in part, but I would say it's that combined with old-fashioned leadership. like
Mm.
kick ass, take some names, make some tough calls, and get the organization or team pointed in the right direction. In the absence of data, as I said, in the absence of consensus, even I think
Yes.
there are moments where I want leaders to step up more
Mhm.
and really advocate for a point of view or a decision and own it and really take that risk, both reputationally and professionally, because that's what those kinds of decisions are.
Yeah.
And when we try to manage out that risk to ourselves, I think we manage out the upside of that decision.
Mhm. Yeah. I agree. I agree with you. I we often say consensus is a race to the bottom.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that neither of us hit on, but I think is in both of our desires around this posture is like I want to see leaders, stewards in relationship with the broader environment. Like, I
Hmm.
want to see the leaders of companies paying a lot of attention to what is going on out there and to what is coming, and to have more of an interdisciplinary approach to leadership that's not just like, well, what am I doing and what is my competitor doing and what did we promise to Wall Street this quarter, but like what is happening out there. And I don't see a lot of airtime given to that sort of future casting and external orientation. See a lot of airtime to like today's crisis and firefighting.
Yeah, no, listen, I love that, Rodney, and I think you're right. Meaning, especially in this moment, in this age of AI, because there's so much externalities or impact.
Yes.
Like AI is just going to shake so much stuff up in so many good and not good ways, and intended and unintended ways. And I would agree with you. We want leaders who are at least trying to wrap their head around some of this stuff. Like, first of all, for their own organization, how will it impact? I'm stunned about how many leaders don't have an answer when employees ask them, "Well, what will be the impact on jobs at my company?" Like that's
Mm,
a basic question. If you're going to be all in on AI, you should have an answer
yeah.
about that, right? About what's the impact on the organization, the why, and why are we doing this, and so on. And then you need to get outside of that. To your point, think about AI in our schools, AI in terms of sort of the health of our society. It drives me crazy that people want to buy AI from Meta or XAI. Like these are unsafe AIs.
Mm,
Like I really won't. We won't pay for any AI from those companies for the use for our own employees' use. And certainly, when I'm asked, I advise every CEO you should not be buying that AI. You should not be paying for it. Like have an opinion about AI safety. Have an opinion
mhm.
about how do we align AIs to our benefit. To humanity, and you do have a couple ways to influence that. One way is with your wallet, pay for responsible AI and deploy responsible AI. And that to me is, AI from companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, not and Microsoft, and not some of these others. So
Mhm.
yeah, have a point of view on that. Like, what is your
Yeah.
expectation of the AI company that you're buying your AI from
Right.
around their safety and alignment investment to make good AIs?
Yeah.
Um, so few executives even think about it. It's crazy to me.
Uh, totally agree. Totally agree. And I think that one of the things that I've heard a couple of very famous investors say that I'm like, I don't like a lot of what you guys say, but I like it when you say this, is that, systems thinking is the skill for leaders to learn. And as someone who does that professionally, like it's not a discipline that is well hewn out there in
Sure.
general. But I
No.
think to your point, like it's that is what allows you to know the levers of your business, as you said, understand the levers in the larger environment, have a real practice of first principles thinking, know how to develop a rubric for what safe AI is, what values aligned AI is, know how to charter AI's role in a team or an organization and determine what authority to give it. Like this is like basic systems thinking shit that is not really part of the conversation of most teams.
Yeah, that's because I think in part, Rodney, we're at peak capitalism right now.
Yeah.
We are, and this,
Yeah.
and your frustration that leaders aren't thinking about some of these bigger challenges, issues, or kind of the bigger picture, and really are sort of heads down, focused on either the next crisis or the next quarter, or frankly the next earnings call. It's because we're at peak capitalism. We have one CEO, Elon Musk, that where the board has approved a potential $1 trillion pay package. I mean, that is peak capitalism. We have CEOs who routinely boast about shrinking the size of their organization in order to drive earnings, like boasting about it. I get it. You have to do that in terms of becoming a more efficient organization. That's the cut part. But also, why aren't you boasting about new products and services? Why aren't you boasting about new jobs created? New value being generated by your organization for the communities in which you do business and so on. But right now we have
Yep.
CEOs mostly boasting about layoffs, including the CEO of Bank of America. I think it's Bank of America. He seems to do it on a regular basis.
Mm.
So I think we're at peak capitalism, and I think that something's going to break and change.
That was gonna be my next question. I heard someone on a stage the other day also say, uh, knowledge work is at peak inefficiency.
Hmm.
And now you, Greg, are saying we are at peak capitalism. Those things don't feel like a recipe for human flourishing. What how do you think this goes? Like, eh, I think most of us have the felt sense that what is happening right now is not sustainable. What do you think breaks us out of this moment? Is it
I
a
think,
recession? Like, what is it?
yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably some combination of Gen Z resistance,
Okay.
anger, anxiety, resistance. Their early career prospects seem to be diminishing. The data is still, I'd say, unclear, but we seem to be getting some data. There's that recent study, as you know, out of Stanford,
Yeah.
in terms of early career jobs, particularly in software engineering and customer service, where early career prospects were reduced by AI. So we'll see if that is if they're the canaries in the coal mine, then I think really that's the generation that's going to suffer the most, and I think we'll hear from them first. So
Mhm.
I think it's a mix of the current system straining under the fact that it's become so bifurcated, so extreme in terms of some are doing so well and
Mhm.
some are just struggling to make ends meet, even in the
Yeah.
even in the knowledge economy, what
Yeah.
we would consider the knowledge economy. So I think that's part of it, and I think also, and maybe the same generation finding different ways to make a living,
Mm.
realizing that that path is not going to work for them. I'm hopeful, maybe delusional. I think though I'm optimistic but pragmatic about it, that maybe we'll end up creating a lot of new and different jobs. Maybe as solo entrepreneurs, that kind of work. Maybe an explosion of entrepreneurship, kind of inside the knowledge economy in terms of, again, solo or small team companies that can generate a good living for the people that work there. That's what I'm hoping. I think large organizations are shrinking, and
Mhm.
I think that's just obvious and inevitable. I think we are moving to an economy where there'll be super companies,
Mm.
and those are
Great.
not
Tell
just.
me about that.
Yeah, I think super companies are ones that are different on the inside. They're smaller, they have super leaders, they have super employees, and they have a whole bunch of agents and a giant cable going out the back to a bunch of AI. And I
Mhm.
think that is, and I think CEOs want super companies. I think Wall Street's going to reward super companies with outsized valuations. They're going to be very efficient. Organizations are going to grow. They're going to likely grow faster than others, and yeah, and using less people. So I think we are entering this next era of capitalism, which is super companies, and I think they'll be in every industry. We'll have a super company. We'll have super law firms that just
Mm.
behave and operate differently than traditional law firms. They'll be more profitable. They'll likely be leaner. They'll likely serve their customers better in terms of what customers actually want and how they pay for it. So I think in almost every industry, we're going to have super companies, and of course, tech will have a lot of them. And I'd say OpenAI and Anthropic are some of the first super companies of this
Mhm.
generation. They have much higher revenue per employee than sort of traditional tech companies as one measurement, right? This idea of revenue per employee. So that
Mhm.
that is, I think, one part of the economy. It's going to be great if you work in a super company, but so few of us can because there's only so many of
Right.
them. So we're going to have to figure out what to do, and I think that's going to be not working for anyone, or
Yeah.
working for ourselves in some way. That's what I'm optimistic about. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how it looks yet, but I feel like that's what could happen here in a good way.
That's really cool. It was my last question for you was going to be what you think the future of organizations is, and you answered it really well. I'll just add to the soup a couple of things that I don't think are new and I don't think are AI related, and then I'll ask you what you think about that. So, the gig economy has been so prolific, that something like 45% of Americans have some kind of side hustle. And sort of this like idea of a portfolio career. Like a lot
Mhm,
of this is just in the last 10 to 15 years that
mhm,
this has become a thing. At the same time, as to your point, the lowest paid employees who are still full-time W2 employees in companies cannot make a living and support themselves on a full-time salary. So it's born of necessity and also a lot of the availability of this gig work.
yep, yep,
I also think that like the sort of membranes around organizations must become necessarily more porous.
mhm,
The idea of like, I'm an employee and you're a contractor and he's a vendor and that's an agent. I'm like, who fucking cares? Like, what does it take to get a piece of meaningful work done?
mhm,
I feel like that's been true. And also, large organizations have really resisted the idea of more of a open talent marketplace in order to achieve important things. So like if we take all of that together and we take the also the idea of super companies, I guess like what do you think the role is for companies to play in society in the next 5 years as some of these truths become self-evident?
Such a great question. It's almost too big a question. Um, I'm not sure about the role of companies
Me
in the
neither.
in the next decade. I tell you what I consider my role as CEO of Section and what our company is all about. Create a great product and service that customers want to pay for, and do that with good margin, and offer good employment to those that we can, and generate return for our investors. Do that in a ethical, authentic, and fair way. Try to enjoy doing it while we're doing it. Withstand the competitive pressures and all the stress that come with that. I don't know if that's changed from 30 years ago when I started my first company. It feels like it's the same thing that I've tried to do at every startup,
Mhm.
and just do it in a way that when we look back on it, we're proud of it.
You know what your answer makes me think of, and it goes back to the very first part of this conversation, is as more and more work does not require human effort
Mhm.
or capacity, we're going to need something to do. And like maybe there is a world in which organizations become the organizing way for us to still have human experience and contribute something that feels meaningful to someone somehow. Because I don't think, to your point, we're all just going to like write poetry and smoke weed all day. And nobody wants to spend that much time with their families. Like, we're going to need something else to do with our brains, even if it's not completely economically necessary the way that it is now.
Yeah, I think that's right, Roddy. And here's the good news: there are so many big problems that we need a lot of human ingenuity and just frankly talent showing up, not just the sort
Yeah.
of the solution, but the people to actually deliver the solution. We're short teachers. I think it's 200,000 teachers short
Yep.
just in the high school system in the United States. We're short healthcare workers and nurses, and like we have labor shortages everywhere, and sort of expertise shortages everywhere. So I think the good news here is that we've got some big problems that we could apply. People who've got the some experience, and if you don't have the experience, AI can probably help out with that. Just show up, right, with
Yeah.
head, heart, and hands, And you're right. Maybe that is one role of an organization in the future, which is to organize us to go tackle some of these challenges.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
This seems like a pretty good place for us to wrap it up. Greg, I could not have enjoyed talking to you more. Where can our listeners learn about you and about Section?
Go to gregshove.com, GregShove.com, and all my links are there. I've started a podcast and newsletter called AI Truth Serum. So if there's one thing I would like people to do is check that out and see if you decide if it's worth subscribing.
Awesome. We will link to that in our show notes. For the listeners, we are always looking for new topics for the show. So if you have an organizational pattern that you're having trouble changing, shoot us a note at podcast@theready.com. This show is engineered by Taylor Marvid and produced by Jack Van Amberg. At Work with the Ready is created by The Ready, where we help organizations around the world change the way they work. Thank you so much for listening.